guys, welcome to The Writer's Journey. I'm your host, Lauren Moore, and with me is the sublime Kayleen Williams. We're two authors on a journey to learn more about writing with you, the audience, so thank you for joining us. Tonight, we're talking about the changes you can make right now to increase your productivity as you work from home. Our guest is a trained health coach, nutritionist, and exercise specialist. He specializes in habit building, ergonomics, and lifestyle changes that put people in the position to be more productive and healthy. Before coaching full-time in writing, he was a printing and publishing specialist and consultant for over 25 years. With his amazing wife, he's written 6 health, nutrition, fitness, and wellness books. He works from home full-time, writing and working behind a keyboard all day long. So deep work, ergonomics, productivity, and anything related to health, he is ready to help. Roland Denzel, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's great.
Now, we met at 20 Books to Vegas, and we were both very excited about this book we'd read, Deep Work by Cal Newport, which that's a book that Scott Moons, Jesse said, Lauren, you've got to read it. I read it, and it was probably the book of 2019 for me. I just loved it so much. So I'm really excited to get you on the show. We're going to talk about deep work, we're going to talk about productivity and health, and really anything the audience wants to get into, we're going to get into. But thanks for joining.
Yeah, especially since so many of us. Oh yeah, no, yeah. Thank you, because with everything that's going on, a lot of us are now stuck at home more than we have been stuck at home. So it's like, I don't know, it's almost like divine intervention. It's perfect timing.
Yeah, especially considering we planned this such a long time ago.
We did not cause it.
We did not cause it. We planned this about over a month ago. But this week, all of my friends have been messaging me. They're friends who work in all kinds of different industries, but now we're all working from home. And it's a completely different environment. The routines, the habits, they're up to us to decide and to figure out, and that changes the game for so many of us. So we're going to talk about productivity, in particular, working from home, what we can do to increase our productivity and not see it get sucked away. Social media. Guests out there on the interwebs, if you have any questions for Roland, if you have any comments, go ahead and post them, and we'll try to hit them up on today's episode. So welcome.
You have to be live. So if you're not live, y'all need to get with the program and come be live. That's all I had to say.
All right. So Roland, if you could just introduce yourself to our audience, tell them a little bit about who you are, what your mission is, and how you support the author community.
All right. So I have been in the health and fitness industry or the wellness industry for about 16 years. But before that, I grew up, I'm 53, and I grew up, my first 35 years, I was overweight, like anywhere from chubby all the way to obese. So about 17 years ago, I lost 110 pounds.
Wow.
And I yo-yoed many times, over the years. Thank you. And decided 17 years ago that I really wanted to keep it off. I was tired of the ups and downs. So I figured I needed, rather than just do a diet, I needed to come up with a system. I really don't know where I got this idea of putting a system in place, but I think it's from the analytical side of the printing and publishing industry. You have to have all these systems and workflows in place, checks and balances. And so I kind of did that, and I've tried basically every diet over the years, experimented with all these different things, but always had a plan. So once I had a plan, the biggest thing that I did for myself was vow never to get off my plan until I had another plan. The biggest mistake people make is being on a diet, and it's working for them, but maybe they don't love it, or think progress is slowed, so they just go, I'm going to quit. I'll start something else new. Well, the hardest thing for anybody who started a diet, the hardest thing is starting that diet the first time, because it's hard work and it's a big change in your mindset, and you're uncomfortable for a while until you kind of get into the groove of things, mentally, emotionally, and physically uncomfortable. So 17 years later, I've kept it off, and I got so passionate about it that I learned to help people with nutrition. Got a certification with precision nutrition, decided to become a restorative exercise specialist. So we know more about ergonomics and alignment and posture, big things. I was a personal trainer and a kettlebell instructor too, so I do know about the really hardcore stuff. But my core audience, along with my wife, is people who don't really love exercise. They don't love to work out. They don't want to do those things. So we try to give them little things that they can do that will make them healthy overall in their lifestyle without having to live at the gym 5 days a week and go hardcore, with the HIIT and the CrossFit and stuff like that. That's not our audience. Our audience is more like a lot of normal people. Not everyone loves to work out. You get the bug, right? And you do it after a while and you enjoy it more and more. But we want to start with people who and help everybody.
So whether you're talking about losing weight or switching your working environment and working everything from being at the office to being at home, or you're talking about writing a book for the first time, we're talking about lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
And it sounds like the big thing is to have a plan in mind before you go at it, figure out those simple steps to get there, and then consistently put it in place.
Yeah, I mean, it's like everyone's heard about, habits is a big thing the last few years, habits. But you can say the habits, but unless you have positive action steps to follow to build those habits and the willingness to stick with them over time, the habits can fall off. It's easy to develop a bad habit, right? But a good habit is something that takes a little bit of, you have to break through those barriers, and then you have to spend time there to where they become sort of ingrained in you. And hence, that's when it's the habit. Yeah. So I've had a sedentary job all my life. I was sedentary as a child. I was a big reader. Computers, had one of the first computers, home computers, and I just loved sitting down. And I love sitting behind the keyboard, and I know. And so that was a big part of it, just not being very active, and much more active now. I'm not like a runner or a CrossFit or anything like that, but I walk a lot. I move a lot, just more like natural movement type of stuff. And that's the kind of thing that I think is the most important thing. You can work out 5 times a week for 45 minutes at a time, but what are you doing with the other, well, I'm bad at math, but the other 163 hours?
All the other time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't unhook that. You can't outrun that 163 hours of sedentariness with hardcore exercise. So I like to put people, give people ideas and lifestyle changes that can sit stand desks, moving around more, changing your positions, reminders to get up and move around every once in a while, that type of stuff.
Now, before this show, we set up a poll on our Facebook group, and we were trying to figure out what are some of our biggest productivity killers that are out there. And so, Keely, what are they for you?
Let's see. What did I put in there? I put in some stuff, and I am totally going to be rambling for a second, as I probably should have had this pulled up before. I am a mother, so my daughter definitely is one of them. Not that it's a bad distraction, but it quickly becomes, one more this, one more that, and I'm just like, okay, I really need to go do this thing, and you're stopping me from doing the thing. All right, here we go. So one that I had, dirty dishes. Every time I turn around, the sink is full of dishes again. And then, I'm there for 30, 45 minutes washing, if it's pots and pans or filling and putting them away. I have also been binge reading webtoons, and I probably should take it off my phone. It's basically a comic book app for your phone. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm not going to lie, I have stayed up till 5 o'clock in the morning reading these fucking webtoons, and I have to put it away sometimes. I'm just like, no, I can't webtoon today. You need to leave me alone and quit giving me pings, because I need to write. So
in our audience, we have my cats, the news, and Facebook from Leo Vaccaro. Yes, those can take up time. I think our number one answer, 26
social media.
No surprise there, right?
Yeah, followed quickly by the ankle biters. Yes, I posted this on social media, and then when I update,
followed it,
checked the post, liked the answer, replied back. All of that took quite a bit of time that I wasn't writing while I was posting.
Yes.
And
Are
I don't know if we're
kids or pets or both. Is it like a combined category?
All of the above, because we have fur babies.
Ankle biters was number two most voted. And then a lot of authors chose Googling rabbit holes.
You know, because you get to that one part of the story and you're like, I really need to be in the zone of this thing. And then so you start to research it and then you're like, oh, well, that's a cool thing that I could maybe add to this other thing. And then now you're in a rabbit hole and it just never ends.
And then we had interruptions, video games, an editor posted weak, pointless action beats. And yes, that does kill my productivity. Napping, time management. And then someone added, and I'm really glad they did, someone added depression. And that's one for me that can kill my productivity when I'm there too. And that's a whole different question, is like, how do you manage that? So I bring these up partly because, we're a community and we can, share our struggles, we can share our tips too, but also because as a consultant, you've seen these before. You've seen so you probably have solutions. So what do you think in your years of working with people? How do you handle some of these barriers to our productivity?
Let's talk about that big one first, the social media, because that's the problem for everybody, me included, right? Everyone can get sucked into these things. And especially if your job requires you to be on social media. So I'm a health coach, and we have groups specifically for our clients. We have groups for a lot of authors. We have groups for our readers. We have groups, so for Q&A. You're trying to use these things to drive people to buy your next book, or to help them out if they're in some sort of a paid program. And you get on there, and Facebook, it's all one thing. So you go into the group, but you still see the little thing that there's notifications up at the top, right? And I better check that. What if it's another one of my groups? Oh, it's not. Was it 20 books to 50K post? I better go check and see what that was, right? And then pretty soon, you've clicked a link, and now you're in that rabbit hole, right? Yeah. So one of the most popular things that we all see is people saying that they're going to do a social media detox, right?
Yeah.
And Cal and I, we're buddies, Cal and I, right? Cal Newport and I, right? We're not. I don't actually know him. But this is one area we agree on. We don't agree on everything, but we agree on a lot of things, right? But this is one area where I feel like the social media detox doesn't really do a lot of good, because it doesn't really teach you anything. It's just like taking, let's say you go on the cayenne pepper cleanse for 30 days, right? Like one of those things. When you're done with it, you haven't really learned anything except for how hungry you can get, right?
It's not impacting your lifestyle. It's just like, okay, I only have to do this for this amount of time, and then I can go back, and everything's going to be fine.
Exactly. And there are valid reasons to do not a detox, because the detox itself is not the intestinal thing is kind of a myth, but that's for another story. But when you do a detox, you might want to be on if you think you're intolerant to certain foods, you can go on an elimination diet for 30 days and then slowly add foods back in. That teaches you something about what you're adding back in. So you've eliminated all the things that could hopefully be problematic, and now you're adding them back in to see how you react to them. That's a good way to do it, a detox or cleanse or an elimination diet. But when you do that for social media, what do you learn at the end? All you've learned was, you might have learned some positives, don't get me wrong. It might be that you haven't, I can go without it. It's not that bad. But then after a while, you get back into it, and pretty soon you're right back where you started.
Yes.
And, yeah. So instead of that, what I suggest, and I got this idea straight out from Cal Newport, is I tell people to give themselves permission to spend an amount of time they feel is legitimate and realistic on social media, and then put it in their schedule. Just like you would put your writing in your schedule, or you would put your, like if you have an important appointment, you just put that in your schedule, give yourself permission, and then, set a timer. Like if you're giving yourself 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the evening, then, set a timer. And then when it dings, wrap up what you're doing and then go on to your next thing. So what this does is it frees you up from the guilt of spending time on social media. And because you have, again, more time later, then it's easier to cut yourself off. Right? And also by putting it in your calendar, putting it on your schedule, you realize just how much time it's taking. Because some of us, like I have an app on my phone on my computer called Rescue Time that monitors like what I do. And there's some days early on where it was like, 5 hours in social media, right? So you wouldn't schedule that. You'd be like, that's ridiculous. Like that's 5 hours of time on social media. You can schedule that, right? So you tone it back. So it kind of makes you aware of what you're doing, and it makes you not mess around. Like you go on and you're going to do the things that you really want to do. You might not succeed the first couple times. Like that timer might
okay to fail.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll learn something every time you have a failure, right? So like it might ding and you're like, I just started. No, like that was half an hour. Oh, okay. So then the next time you're going to go, you know what? I really need to do the things that I want. I'm going to check the groups that are important to me. I'm going to answer the people I want. And then when I have those things done, then I can mess around and scroll through it. But over time, you'll be able to manage that better.
That's definitely something that I've heard a lot from the authors that are full-time, and that's their income is their full-time authorship. They literally schedule in, this is my block of time to work on ads, to check the ads. Mm-hmm. This is my block of time to check my emails, specifically in concern with X, Y, and Z, to be in that group, to do this. And then this other time, this is my writing time, because this is when I have my best writing hours, and those are precious. So I'm not going to, muss that up with scrolling through Facebook or Webtoons. So
now, wouldn't it be amazing if Facebook will let you go into the ads manager and not see all your notifications, right? Because that's the problem too. Like you're in there and you're doing legitimate work, so that you should be able to be in there, right? And you might even schedule that. I need 30 minutes twice a week to do my ads, but you're always tempted by that little red dot.
I hate notification. I swear to the heavens, just today in the car, that's a whole other side story why I was in the car with my mom. But I'm in the car with my mom and the light is blinking. So I have to go in there and she's like, who are you talking to? I'm like, no one, I can't. I hate the lights and I don't like the red dots. I need to get rid of them. And I spent like 5 minutes going through and getting rid of the red dots and the blinking.
Well, so there's nothing you can do that I've found to eliminate the red dots when you're in the app or when you're in the browser of Facebook. But you can turn off all the red dot. Like you can turn off the little red dot that's on the Facebook icon. It shows you that there's
some I need to get rid of.
Notification. You can shut off the blinking light on your phone that says that there's a new notification. So like I have all of that stuff turned off, and my phone almost never rings. Like I only turn it on the ringer when I'm like, I'm doing something around the house and something important is coming up.
Yeah.
It's either on silent or it's on vibrate, and all of the little flashing light things are turned off. And I've turned off the thing that the screen turns on every time, because that's the worst. The screen turns on off in the corner of the room that say you have a notification.
Oh, see, no, I turned that part off. I can't. That would really drive me crazy, man.
Yeah. Especially at midnight when you should be sleeping.
I have 2 different apps that I use. One is Newsfeed Eradicator. That's a Google Chrome extension. And that just blocks my newsfeed on Facebook. So I can use everything else that I want. I can use Messenger. I can look at the notifications. But I can't find myself scrolling on newsfeed and 30 minutes later find that 30 minutes is gone. Just disappeared forever.
One thing that I did do, sorry, no, you're still gone.
And then there's a blocker that you can use where you can just block websites entirely and you can schedule it out. But yeah, Google Facebook block sites, I think is what it's called, and you can have that put on your browser if that's what you really need. Like me.
Do either of those work on your? Is there anything like that on your phone? Is what like I hear there are some things, but
so I actually put on a do not disturb on my phone, and you can go in there and you can set it to what you want. So the only time I ever hear my phone ring or actually make a sound itself is if those people are in my contact list of my phone. So, I mean, it'll blink and stuff, but if it's like a Facebook message or something like that, it's just the blinking. I don't get any sounds. I get, telemarketer phone calls all the time, but I never know it because it doesn't make sound for those.
Right.
So I know if it's making sound that it's somebody, important to me because they're the only ones that are going to make it ring. So that's something that I did. That and honestly, as soon as I did that, I did notice like half my time spent on my phone checking things and all of that has, was cut in half easily.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean the little tip, finding an app might be hard for some of these things, right? Like I try to log out when I catch myself in the Facebook app too much. I log out of the app. Well, it's just an extra step, but when I go in, it reminds me when I see the login screen, right? Oh, I was spending too much time. So then I'm like, okay, it's like a reminder. So that helps. Unfortunately, Facebook changed the app, so where all you have to do is tap the button and you're logged back in. Like you don't have to remember the password, anything, and it's really
not creepy at all.
I know. The other thing is just in general, this is good for anything, whether it's social media, text messages, Messenger. Just put your phone like face down and put it where you don't see it. Because if you can't see it, you might be able to hear it. If you're a mom or a dad, or you have an important job, or you need to get text messages from your boss, leave it on vibrate or something for those specific people, and then just put it behind you so you don't have to see it, or put it in a box or in a drawer or something, somewhere so it's out of sight, out of mind. Because you might not think it's distracting, but when you see it, like when you get frustrated, I don't know what this character should be saying right here. And then, in the corner of your eye, you see your phone. You're like, maybe I should just check that. I'll think of something in a minute. And then pretty soon, all your concentration is unhooked.
So you mentioning it, leaving like the phone in another room, that was one of the first things that I did probably 2 or 3 years ago. I would leave my phone in my room, and I'm like, I'm doing this right now, and I don't need it. There's no reason for anybody to contact me right now. But the thing is, I had already been holding my phone with me so long. I had trained my daughter that mommy always has her phone. So we would be in the living room and we'd be watching a movie together, and she'd, have to go to the bathroom. And she's like, I saw that you didn't have your phone, so I got it for you. And I'm like, I don't need it. Go put it back in the bedroom. We're doing this right now. I don't need the phone. So then I had to retrain her that you don't always need to have it on you. It was that moment that really made me try to distance myself from it, because I was basically showing her,
that she might need to be dependent on it too, right?
Yeah.
It's like she's got her blanket or her teddy bear, and you have your phone.
Yep. Yeah, so I had to retrain that out of her. So now she doesn't grab my phone quite as often to bring to me, which is good. It's a good thing.
So phones, social media, those can be things that like we reach for, like you're saying, for comfort. And, normally in life and normally in times, we will say, all those reaching, you're losing time. It's a sign of addiction. Maybe you want to, handle it, or at least that's what I tell myself is I need to work on this. But right now, with the news being crazy and the virus sweeping through, there's a feeling that we have to stay connected to know what's going on. So that kind of brings up another topic with productivity is how can you maintain your focus and get work done and stay productive when you have to, when you're going through something stressful, or when you're struggling with depression, when you're going through, an external difficult situation that you can't really control, and yet you have to get your work done. How do you do that?
Well, it may not sound like the healthiest mental thing, but compartmentalize, right? I don't know if you've heard of this term. A lot of people get crap for it because like, oh, I just pretend like it's not happening and then I can work on something else and not do the important thing, right? Procrastinating, right? So you compartmentalize. But you can also compartmentalize in a positive way. Like, so for instance, let's look at the news right now with the virus going around. So yes, it's legitimate. You might want to check the news in the morning to see if anything big happened that directly affects you, or your family, or your friends, loved ones. But there's nothing really, realistically, that can happen once you've checked the news within like the next 4 to 6, probably 8 hours, right? Like, what's going to happen? Will have changed what you're gonna do. But that amount of time with a stressful situation like this may be too much. Like that 4 hours, maybe. So what you need to do is, just like giving yourself permission to check social media, like maybe during a time like this, you need to give yourself permission to check the news, right? But tell yourself you're just going to check to see if anything important happened, and then go back to something else. Now you might want to, it might take you a while to get back into that. So you could incorporate that into your social media time, for instance. Or you could say, I'm going to check the news and then I'm going to go do those dishes that are out there, right? Or I'm going to take a little walk around the block or something like that. So there are things you can do. The thing is, it's really hard when you tell yourself not to do something and put something like on like the blacklist, right? Try to, when there are these things that you think are important or that are legitimately important to you, give yourself permission to do them, and then give yourself a specific amount of time and maybe specific times to do them.
I like that you say to include that in the social media, because my mom had actually downloaded some news app thing on her phone because she was following all the COVID stuff and she wanted to get as much information on it as she could. And she came to me and she's like, I am sick of this thing dinging. It won't stop. Get it off my phone now. And it's just like, I'm just sitting here and all I'm doing all day is reading all these things and it won't stop dinging. So I had to take it off her phone. And so she's like pulled back on, reading a lot of those articles and searching them out. So yeah, I think that's especially, tying that into like the depression. I mean, that's, worry leads to other things, and it can trigger a lot of other things. So compartmentalizing, definitely doing it in a positive way can save you, a lot of grief, self-imposed grief, actually. You do need to know the things, but not 24 hours a day.
Yeah. So it sounds a little bit like easier said than done to tell yourself, oh, nothing's going to happen in the 4 hours that I'm not checking it, right? But when you say, just like with the social media thing, like when you say, I'm going to do this at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm going to look again at 11 o'clock before lunch, and then I'm going to, that you have that specific time down the road. Mm-hmm. So it kind of takes the pressure off. Like if you say, oh, I'm not going to look anymore today, well, that's too strict, right? Like saying I'm going to look in 4 hours or maybe 2 hours if things are like not yet crazy in your neck of the woods, but they're going to be. But just knowing that you have when it's going to be can give you that freedom emotionally to let it go temporarily.
So it sounds like one key is not allowing these different activities to kind of bleed into each other and mix. But that part I knew before, but the other part I hadn't thought of is looking at it as freedom and opportunity. I will schedule this time to do something fun, and I'm free to do it. And now that time's over, and now I'm free to do the work that I actually want to do and really want to get done, whether that's writing that book or editing someone or whatever that work is.
Like, it sounds a lot like, and I hope no one takes offense to this, but children love structure, right? You wake them up in the morning, you tell them, you do this, you do that, and they're happy. And then you're just like, go play. And then just like, okay. And they go do their thing. And you're like, now it's time for this. And they're just like, oh, darn it, 5 more minutes. No, because it's time for this, right? You've trained them that there are certain times they need to do things. But once we reach adulthood, there's no more adult to tell us, You know, it's time for this, it's time for that. We have to be the ones to tell ourselves. So, you know, forcing yourself back into that regime, you know, it's comfortable because that's how we were raised, man. Just saying.
A lot of us, I found in working with authors and other like small business people, that, and my health clients too, is that very few of them, not very few, a lot of them do not have a calendar, right? Or they might have a paper calendar that kind of, oh, this is the stuff I'm going to do this month. It's like the family calendar on the wall or something like that. But, you know, 25, 30 years in like a corporate environment taught me that I have to know when somebody else schedules a meeting for me, right? I have to be there on time. So I get in the habit of doing this. And I also got in the habit of adding my personal things in there as well, because if I need to have the day off, I go in there and block that out. Or if I have a doctor's appointment, I go block that out. Because in a corporate environment, people can say, okay, these are all the people I'm going to have a meeting with, right? And the computer tells them the openings, and like they find the spot. So if you don't have that blocked out, now you're the guy, oh, I can't make it to that meeting. Oh, well, why didn't you have it blocked out, right? So it's kind of given me the habit over the years. But a lot of authors, and again, don't get mad for saying this, but a lot of authors, it's like a badge of honor that they don't have a calendar. Oh, I don't have a calendar. Or I have
I love my calendar.
I know. Or I have this whiteboard wall calendar that I have, which is fine. But if you don't ever look at it, or if it's not in the level of detail that you're going to stick to, right, then it doesn't really do a lot of good. It might make you hit the milestones. Like if you have, today is my writing day to finish my novel, well, maybe you'll do that. But what if you had get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and write for an hour, write my novel for an hour. And then like at 7, I have this a meeting with my writing group. And like you have things, then at 7:30, I have check Facebook or social media time for half an hour. So it seems a little bit silly sometimes to put this level of detail in there, but you're both giving yourself permission and setting the stage. And the night before, you can look at your calendar and say, oh, these are the things I'm going to do. These are the expectations I have for myself. And these are the things I want to do. And it can be very powerful, especially at first when you're trying to get in the habit of doing these things.
Absolutely.
Anthony DeMarco says, I have a per week whiteboard on my office door at face level, so I can't miss it.
That's good. And a lot of what I'm hearing is one way that people might kind of not necessarily get it wrong, but go astray is they're being too vague, right? It's like, I'm going to write today. It's like, okay, but you also need to eat, probably shower. You know, you might need to walk the dog. You might need to do the dishes, laundry, you know, go to the store, get that thing, do something for your friend. You know, where is writing in all that? Like, so I love that you need to consciously be putting a little bit more structure into the vague of your goals.
Yes, absolutely. Because we have a tendency to underestimate how much time certain things take and overestimate how much time other things take. And the biggest risk to our writing is, because for a lot of us, writing is not the primary source of income. It's not the most important thing. We want it to be, right? But the reality is we have a day job, we have kids, we have to eat, we have to clean, we have to do all these things. We have to go take people to doctor's appointments or go ourselves. So those things, for so many of us, take precedence over writing. So if you underestimate how long some of these things take, well, suddenly your writing gets bumped because you're like, oh, I just write when I have spare time. You may never have spare time. But if you can put in all of those things, especially at the beginning while you're learning these rhythms, you can save that writing time for yourself. And we've all heard of people who, in a half an hour a day or a half an hour in the morning and a half an hour at lunch, have written a novel in a few months, right? So that underestimating how long it takes to do the dishes and clean the house and go to the grocery store, can be the difference between writing a novel and not.
Mm-hmm. Now, writing is a creative endeavor, and it takes a lot of focus. It sometimes takes the muse to kind of like, hit you, and it takes work. But that can be a struggle if you're dealing with stress, anxiety, depression. That mental fog can kind of cloud things over. So do you have any suggestions for us to deal with that, to be able to kind of lift that fog, to work through depression or anxiety or whatever it is, to be able to focus and get work done?
Yeah, I mean, my wife is a therapist, so she works with a lot of people like that. So I'm not going to try to step on her into her specialty.
Yeah, it's a huge question. Sorry.
I know, but there are, for people who have trouble with depression, concentrating, and anxiety, there is listening to some sort of positive music that's in the vein of your work, right? That inspires your work. I think a recent study, I'll see if I can dig it up at some point, but I think it was like 7 to 10 minutes of this was enough to get people going. Now, it's not like 7 to 10 minutes while you're writing. It's like you have a routine. You might be setting your desk up. You might be, you might be making your coffee. You have your headphones in, and you're listening to this music that means a lot to you. And that is a very powerful, in addition to having a routine, is a very powerful stimulus to get yourself going in the right direction. It's not perfect. And if you have bad depression, then all the other things come into place. Good nutrition, getting enough sleep, a mindfulness practice, therapy, sometimes medication. All of those can play into it. But having a routine can help so many things. And so I like to start off in the morning. I'm not depressed, but I do have some anxiety sometimes, right? So I like to start off my morning with a little bit of music and maybe like a mindfulness practice. I use an app called Headspace. And then when I start writing, I put on my noise canceling headphones because I don't want to hear the chitter chatter around. And I use an app called Brain FM, which is, I don't know if you've ever tried it, but it's... What?
It gave me such a migraine. I mean, so many people have loved it, but oh my God, for 2 days I could not. Anyway, but yeah.
Okay.
Try it, but just be warned, there might be a tiny small percentage of people where they're just like, get it out of my head.
My biggest problem is it makes these earworms because it's the repetitive, it's a repetitive music. So like, I'll be like humming this tune. I'm like, where did this tune come from? Like, I don't know this song. And then like 2 days later, I'll pick that Brain FM tune and I'm like, oh, that's where it came from. Yeah. But migraines aside, what's nice about it is that it is repetitive music. So it's not the song changing all the time. And each one's about 30 minutes long. So they do change periodically, but it's these constant sort of rhythms and beats designed to get you to either focus or concentrate or relax.
What I did really, really like about it was you could set your own time because they have different levels, go for this long, it's this type of mood or this type of thinking. I really liked the idea behind that. But I have to stick to my non vocal classical music. That's what does it for me.
Oh, okay. I can't do classical music because it has too many ups and downs. Like the volume goes up, the volume goes down. Like the tempo goes up, the tempo for the drama. So it's really difficult for me. A lot of people there's like, you can go on YouTube and you can find 10 hours of ambient noise from like the Starship Enterprise. And you can pick any Enterprise you want, or Battlestar Galactica. Like you can pick these things where it's just like the ambient sort of white noise of like the big engines of this ship and there's little things and stuff like that. And so people really like that type of stuff. There's forest noises. There are apps that can pipe coffee house noises in.
Ooh, you could make your own cafe in your house.
Exactly. Yeah. The biggest thing I was talking to Kevin Tomlinson about this is that we were both trying the same coffee house app, but there's like, they didn't make the loops long enough. So like you hear the same guy going, Like, like every 13 minutes, you're like, okay, you have 13-minute loop, and so you can start anticipating it. Like, okay, a glass broke. Okay, the guy's gonna clear his throat in a second, and as soon as it gets to that point, you're like, so now you're thinking of that instead of your writing. But there are a couple of them. Yeah, I'm trying to think what the name.
But that's a really cool. That's a cool idea too, especially during this quarantine that's going around the globe.
Yeah.
For all you people, because I've seen that a few times in different groups. I only do my writing when I'm out and about. I'm in a coffee shop. I'm in this sort of place. Go to the App Store. I mean, go to the YouTubes and find those loops of the ambient noises. I'd probably type in ambient noise loop or something. But yeah.
Yeah,
and get yourself there.
There are a variety of apps. I use one called White Noise Generator. Mm-hmm. Super catchy name. But it lets you pick all these different things and combine them together. So you can get coffee house, you can hear thunderstorms, rivers, fountain, and thunderstorms, guys said.
Love thunderstorms.
Yeah, so a lot of these things are really nice. And even when I go to a coffee house, I usually pipe in coffee house noises because it blocks out the people that are talking.
Yeah, and that works. It makes you kind of feel like you're there. Now we had a special request. Guy Anthony DeMarco, he would like to hear about the show sponsor.
Yes.
This book was written by someone really amazing, and he knows a lot about life, fitness tips, and health, and how as authors and editors we can use this as anyone. This can make our lives better. So let's hear about it, Keely.
All right. So this week's book spotlight is on Eat Well, Move Well, Live Well. 52 Ways to Feel Better in a Week by Roland and Galina?
Yes.
Denzel. Yeah, nailed it, Galina Denzel. Yes. All right. A simple, straightforward guide to helping you live your most vibrant life, starting right now. International health coaches Galina and Roland Denzel, authors of The Real Food Reset and founders of EatMoveLive52.com, have helped hundreds of clients achieve their health goals through simple solutions based on small changes. Now they've brought together their collective experience and expertise in this comprehensive book. Eat Well, Move Well, Live Well meets you where you are. From the novice to the fitness obsessed to the fitness professional, and brings you practical and useful yet super simple advice with humor, humility, and a solid scientific foundation. Whether you're already living a healthy lifestyle or are ready to turn over a new leaf, you're going to find an exciting new path in these pages. You can read the book cover to cover, theme by theme, or go choose your own adventure style to follow Galina and Roland's suggestions on everything from movement, alignment, and walking, to fish, fats, and fermented foods, to sleeping, vacationing, and working, and bad days, de-stressing, and building a support network. Each chapter includes tasks to enable you to embark on a real, immediate change within a week. Click now and buy! Or doom. Because we must have doom.
That sounds really good. You could be an audiobook narrator.
Thank you. I am available. Shameless advertisement.
Well, thank you so much.
Of a shameless advertisement, just in case you're curious about the book that Roland and I were talking about at 20 Books, it is Deep Work by Cal Newport, and here's the link to that as well.
So for all you out there rewatching it or currently watching right now, both those links just dropped. At least it's worth a looky-loo. Put it in your designated social media time and go check them out.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, our pleasure. Before we get into deep work, which I really want to talk to you about, we had some questions about building a workspace. So someone who's going from an office setting, perhaps, or maybe someone who just for the first time in their life, they want to carve out a workspace at home. You know, what's important to remember? What aspects should we want to have in it? What should our workspace be like to be most productive as possible?
Well, so let's look at two different things. Right now, people are being forced to work at home, right?
Yeah.
Or they're volunteering to work at home. Forced sounds a little bit harsh, but just got to work at home. It's for the best, right? And those people may not have the space to have a dedicated workspace. So which is really important. It's unfortunate. So the best tip I have for that is make it as dedicated as you can. Like the only place you might be able to work is the kitchen table. But it's important that you take a couple of minutes and change the environment a little bit so that your kitchen table can be more of a workspace. So if you have like a bowl of fruit and like a centerpiece and table settings like all there all the time, or snacks on there, it's important to take a couple of minutes and like move that stuff off, just so you have something that's more efficient for working. You might need to change your angle around a little bit so you're not facing the rest of the family. If you have a family or you have like a condominium and you have like one or two bedrooms and everything is used for other things, and the kitchen table is your new workspace, your new reality, right? You might want to change the orientation a little bit so you're not facing the family, so you're facing like a wall or a window, and set out things that you might need, like make sure you have notepads and paper, or your cup of coffee, and some sort of a motivational, try to make it look as close to a workspace as possible. It does take a couple of minutes to do, but then you get much more productivity out of it than you've given up by using up those couple of minutes.
You could stack what you were saying. I'm going to pause you just for a second. You could stack what you were saying earlier, listening to whatever music gets you into your groove. And that can be, I'm going to listen to this song as I shift this space into writing. And through doing that, you are getting yourself into, I'm going to be writing, instead of just, I'm at the computer now, what do I do? You've given yourself that time to transition from everything else.
Yeah. So if you do have a semi-dedicated or a dedicated workspace, right? So now people who are coming from home, it's a more important workspace. So even though it's another badge of honor to have like stacks of stuff everywhere and be surrounded by like piles of paper and books, there are many studies that show that is not conducive to productivity. So all of those little things subconsciously distract you. So the more streamlined you can make it. If you need to have stacks, put them in another room. Like if you're not ready to clean those things up, get some boxes and put them somewhere, because you know that you're not going to look at those things for a long time. Otherwise they wouldn't be stacked up like that. So put them somewhere else, or put them on bookshelves. It's okay to have things, but it just needs to look like an office. And that kind of needs to look like an office. Like imagine if your boss stopped by and said, hey, I'm in the neighborhood. Is it okay to have a cup of coffee and talk about this project? Well, that's how your office should look. It shouldn't be like, oh my gosh, Bob, you've got to give me like half an hour so I can go buy some moving boxes and put these things out in the garage. So just kind of have it set up in a way that there's plenty of pictures online of like, no one takes a picture online. Like if you go to pexels.com and look at all the free pictures of desks, none of them are cluttered and crazy, right? You want to have these ones that are like set up nicely. You want to have a picture of your family or some sort of a motivational thing, or a tablet to write, or a pad of paper to write on. Organization, as much as people and authors are proud of not being organized sometimes, it really can help, especially when you're trying to get more work done.
Yeah, honestly, one of the best things you can do is at least try in your own realm of doing things to be as organized as you can. Because once you start getting multiple projects, you're going through editing and now you're switching scenes, you're moving things around. If you don't have like some kind of work board or notepad or something that it's not all here and it's not just in piles, especially if it's what you're currently working on, it can get crazy.
Yeah. There's a lot of psychological tricks too. Like a lot of people work, like I work from home all the time. And so when I switch gears from health coaching to fiction writing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have to get up and do something different. I might move this is a laptop on a stand, like a riser. So my screen's at eye level. But when I want to write something else, I might take my laptop out to the other room and write something else. So it's like sometimes a change of scenery is enough to trigger a change of, like a change in your work. Right? So sometimes I just change things around. Like this is a desk in the middle of the room. I could actually switch around, or I could go from sitting to standing. All those kinds of things can be good ways to do it. Just making sure you have a comfortable workspace. Like having dedicated is great, but if it's dedicated and it's a cramped little desk, you might be better off not having a dedicated space that is more comfortable. Or it might not be ideal because this room is too dark. But if I'm able to close the door to shut out the sounds of the family for a couple of hours, there are trade-offs for everything. You kind of have to experiment and see and maybe sometimes even track it and see like, oh, here's where I was. This is what I was set up. Like how many words was I able to write? How many pages was I able to write? How many distractions did I have?
So speaking of distractions, like it's work, but real quick, kids are a huge one. Whether it's Kayleen with the dishes or, kids home from school, school's out for a lot of families and we're not really sure when school's going to be back in. Do you have any tips for being able to balance those really important things in life, taking care of your kids, loving on your kids, being there for them, but also being able to get work done?
Yeah, if anyone, one of the things that in your poll that you put up, Facebook, social media was the biggest thing, but way down below was interruptions. Like it wasn't one of the top. I don't think it was one of the top 4. It was like down below that. But interruptions is actually, even though it's not as common, like commonly blamed for lack of writing or lack of productivity, an interruption can have so much more power to unhook your flow.
Oh,
because
God, man.
Yeah. When you go onto social media, okay, you're there for a long time, but you're very, so like, now you've just lost your train of thought, you spend an hour. But every time, if you're in the middle of something and somebody opens your door and says, 10 minutes to dinner, well, okay, just tell me better next time, just tell me dinner, right? Don't tell me, I don't need the 10-minute warning and then a 5-minute warning. So every time you get distracted or interrupted, it's frustrating, and it takes extra time every time after that. It takes longer and longer and longer to get back in the flow. So it's really important to try to get buy-in from in addition to turning off notifications on your computer, your laptop, your tablet, your phone. It's important to try to get buy-in from your family that when you're working, unless somebody's lost a limb or like something like that, like please don't interrupt me.
I try that so much. I'm like, okay, I need to get through so many things right now. So unless Grams has fallen and can't get up or you're bleeding profusely, don't bother me. And she'll still come in and do and I'm just sitting here. Why right now? Number 5. Wrestling manatees at the bottom. What?
Oh yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah. It's tough, but like what you could do there in that situation, Kayleen, is like some sort of positive reward system that when they have gone that amount of time, like I don't know how old your kids are, but like when my kids were little, they were highly motivated by stickers. So like we would make these charts and they could pick out every time they did it, they would get a sticker chart. And then like when they were done, like after they got so many stickers, they got some sort of a like non-food reward. They got to watch, something that they wanted to do, or we got to go somewhere or something like that. So, but that may not be the solution. But
I already do that.
Yeah, and the other thing is like, okay, like, and maybe like
she just loves me so much and wants to talk. But no, she's for the most part really good. It's just during this, she's lost, the days at school that she should have been there.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's just like, I'm bored, so I want to tell mom about all this cool things that are in my head. And I'm just sitting there. And she's like, no, I'll wait. You can finish your sentence. And I'm like, but you're standing there staring at me. So just say your thing. And so I can go back to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
So in like if you're like with recording studios and things like that, they often have like the little red light outside the door.
I want to get one.
You know, so somebody, I can't remember where it was. I think it was one of my on Instagram. I had this discussion the other day. Somebody's had some sort of it was a night light that had different sort of, you could control the colors of the LEDs, and he or she put it near the door, and depending on what color it was not like don't come in, or like I need half an hour. So like they had something. So I've even considered something, well, like when I'm doing my kids aren't here now, they're old, they've moved out, but when they were around and staying with us, I had a little sign that I would put on the door that said, I'm recording. Like I would put it there. It was just hanging on the door handle out there. And that was enough for them to remember. I also locked the door, which really frustrated my son at first, but then he got to remember, okay, it's locked because I'm not supposed to bother him. So he ran into the door really hard a couple times, but then after that, he was okay.
Well, maybe scheduling might come to help save the day too. You know, if you're scheduling your work and your play, you're scheduling your day out. Maybe the kids need that too. Like they've got that at school. They've got their day scheduled at school, but if all of a sudden there's no school and now they're home, they need some kind of structure set up for them. And you know, I don't want to like encourage micromanaging every little thing. That's not good. But you could sit down with your kid and you could talk through with them what they want to do today, what they need to get done, what they would like to get done. And maybe they need to set up a schedule for themselves too.
Yeah.
Well, also what you said earlier about kids liking structure. So if you say that, like, I need to work for 1 hour or until this time, assuming they know what time is, right? Or have a clock, then, and you actually stick with it, they will start to trust that you're telling the truth. And that if they just wait till this time, mommy or daddy's going to come out, and then they're going to spend that 10, 15 minutes with me before they do something else. Mm-hmm. So if you don't, like if it's always like, well, I don't know when I'm going to come out, then they don't know when they're going to see you. They have no way to know whether they can wait that long, and then they're just going to give up and knock.
That's the Monday, when the first day of her not being able to go back to school. I was like, okay, this is how mommy's Monday goes. All right. I have this thing and I have that thing. So you need to give me time to prep. I'm going to give you an extra half hour because this is unusual. And then you need to not bother me. And so she did really good because she understood. And then I was like, it's going to take anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes. So somewhere around this time, I will come out of my room and we can, proceed doing this other thing. And exactly what you said, I came out, within that time frame, and she was good.
Great.
So let them know what's coming, what's happening. Guy Anthony DeMarco also says lard on the doorknob. Out.
I like this guy.
Thinking outside the box.
That's right.
All right.
Lard is an underrated fat as it is. So more tips.
Well, I don't want to bring up deep work because I feel like that's a giant topic and we're pretty much out of time.
How much time do we have?
2 minutes? I mean, you could go longer if you're free, but like 2 minutes is not a lot of time to talk about deep work. Do you want to quickly?
We are here for as long as you want to be here.
I have a few more minutes. Let's talk about it.
Okay, cool. What's deep work? How can we use it and get better at it?
Well, deep work is a big book, right? But I recommend it. And so it's really about, like a lot of these things that we talked about, like focusing on something for a specific amount of time, which gives you the ability to concentrate just on compartmentalize. He doesn't say compartmentalize, but it allows you to just really like focus with blinders on that specific thing for a specific amount of time. And it's something that you learn. Like it takes practice to get into this deep work thing. But a lot of it is eliminating distractions, putting yourself on a schedule, and getting buy-in from other people that you're on the schedule so you don't get interruptions. And putting systems in place that encourage you to do these same things over time until the habit of these things are built up. Right? So a lot of it is, there's some things that in the book that don't really apply to us as much because like he is a researcher And he can go off of email for the day, and like, at the end of the day, he can see what he's going to do. Oh, and I don't need any of those things. Then I'm going to go out I'll check out, respond back to this tomorrow. A lot of us we have bosses and we have clients, and their expectations are we get back to them not tomorrow, but some of them today. Now there's some that's fine. We get too aggressive with ourselves and the need to constantly check email and constantly check our messages. So there's a little bit something to say there, but yeah, if you can get yourself on a schedule, like for checking your email, just like that. So like I have 15 minutes to check my email, or I think he calls it triage your emails. So like the things that you need to address right away, the things that they're not important, that I can address whenever. And then you bundle them together, because it's like when you do these things bundled together, you can get them done much more efficiently. It doesn't seem like much, but it's called task switching. And every time you switch from one task to the other, you lose time to get in the next gear. Right. So just by bundling all those things together, they can be like bundled. You can do all my email, and then I'm going to do my text messages, then I'm going to do my messenger. Those are similar enough where they can be bundled together. But if you want to go for, I'm going to make an outline for this book, then I'm going to check a couple of emails, and I'm going to go back to this over here. I have to add this little thing on there, and I'm going to check a couple more emails. Every time you do that, you spend a half an hour doing that. You've lost a lot of time every time you've switched. You may not feel like it, but the studies show that you do.
The seconds add up.
Yeah, with deep work, I kind of think of that flow state as an author that you get in when the words are just coming and the words are flowing, and the ideas are just kind of coming out your fingers. And that's the kind of the state that you want to get into. And that comes down to focus and attention. So all of these other things that are kind of distracting you will keep you from getting into that flow state.
Absolutely.
Do you have any other tips for helping to get into that flow state other than scheduling out your time and scheduling away those other distractions?
Those are the big ones. I think that there's a lot to be said for you having a daily routine. So not just scheduling it, but trying to get as much of a routine as possible. Finding the amount of time that works well for you to write. Like you might find that you can write for 1 hour and get a lot of words in. Like let's say you can get 1,000 words in an hour, just to pull a number. But if you add a second hour, you might only get 500 extra, so 1,500. But if you were able to do an hour here and then an hour after lunch when you're fresh again, maybe you get another hour. Maybe you get another 1,000. So experimenting and then coming up with like both finding what works for you the best. You have to track these things. You have to like make a little logbook. In addition to, you can even use your calendar. You can even go back into your calendar and say like, you go back in time in the calendar and say like, during that time I did this. It gives you something to go back and see whether you were successful, whether you had stumbling blocks, whether you were able to accomplish those things, how much time did it really take, and what were you able to get out of it. And then you can use that to sort of fine tune from there. The routine, like even with little kids, with adults, is very powerful. And we, as humans, don't like to be tied down to routine. Some people do. But somebody earlier on said, I love order.
I love schedule.
With an exclamation point. And I do now, but I didn't always. Yeah. So that's a big one. Giving yourself time. And if you find yourself stuck, don't just flounder around in that stuck state. Recognize as quickly as possible that you are stuck and do something to change it. So there are different techniques some people call it writer's block or just being stuck, or you can do all sorts of things to either keep yourself from going down that rabbit hole. Like a lot of times when we're stuck, we're like, oh gosh, I better do some research. And you're going to get, but if you know you have research later, you're going to need research time later, planned for, then you give yourself that freedom. Maybe write something else, or write a different chapter, skip ahead, write the favorites, write that scene that you know is coming up down the road that you've been so excited about that you just can't get to. And then you can come back to this thing later. So, or if you just can't do it, Cal calls it a productive meditation, right? Where he says, like, leave the house, go for a walk. Now that it's spring, a lot of us can do that. Just stay 6 feet away from people. But don't listen to a podcast, unfortunately. Don't listen to music. Just don't watch your phone. Like, you might take it with you for emergencies, but turn it off and stick it in your pocket. And for best results, walk around the block or walk a path that you're comfortable walking, and take like a little pad of paper and a pencil if you come up with an idea, so that you're not going to lose that idea when you're walking. And just decide before you leave the house, what is the problem you're trying to solve, right? And then start walking. And just like with any sort of mindfulness practice, when you feel your mind slipping off and drifting off, and oh, look at those fall leaves, look at those spring flowers over there, just note it, and just like imagine. Like, what I like to do is I like to say, okay, spring flowers distracted me. I flick it away, like mentally flick that thing away, or brush it off to the side, and now go back to that and say, I can come back to that later. Right now, I'm doing this productive meditation, and I'm walking, and I'm thinking about these things.
I like that. I think I'm going to try that one.
Okay. Yeah. If you have the ebook, it's super easy to find. You just search productive meditation. With the ebook, I have the audiobook and the paperback book and the ebook. So I was I listened to the audiobook first, and I was so interested in it that with a lot of nonfiction books, you want to go back and flip back and forth and make some notes. So this is one of the rare books that I've bought multiple versions of. This one and Atomic Habits is another one that I've bought multiple versions of.
Yeah, I keep hearing about that book. Let's check that one out.
All right. So it sounds like a lot of, working from home. It comes with understanding, yourself, your household, and your space. If it's a small space, you might need to transition it day to day, hour to hour, between things. But just, make that a part of what you do on your day to day. Don't make it an inconvenience. You can transform it into, this is my time to get started into writing, by listening to music or whatever have you as you're moving those objects. And being flexible. You've got to remain flexible, and you've got to allow yourself time to fail, and time to get back and try something new, and take notes. I mean, my goodness, we're authors. We're great at taking notes. We take all the notes. Take notes on your lives. Stuff those together. Make a story arc of your productivity and put it to good use.
Absolutely.
All right.
Well said.
Thank you so much, Roland, for coming on and chatting with us, sharing all of your stuff. And you over here, did you have last thoughts? You look like you had last thoughts. No? Okay. That was just me. I'm imagining things. Roland, could you please tell our viewers, listeners, all of the good people out there where they can find you, your work, and not creepy stalk you?
So for my more author-related work, you can find me. I made it easy. RolandDenzel.com, right? So you can just go there. RolandDenzel.com. It's going to lead you to my author the website that I've created to help authors. Indestructibleauthor.com. That's a lot of things that I learned after I created it. That's a lot to type. So RolandDenzel.com is easier. People remember my name. And there's if you go there, RolandDenzel.com/Keystroke, you can sign up, and I'll send you my 5 tips to more productivity. And then I'm writing a book on productivity, so you will be the first to get chapters as they start to come out, and ongoing tips.
Oh my goodness. If y'all want to hear that again, RolandDenzel.com/Keystroke. You can get updates to improving your productivity. Thank you. That is amazing. Sorry, you were still talking. I totally talked over you. Continue.
No, I was rambling. I can do that for a long time.
All right. So with that, thank you so much to our viewers, to our listeners, for listening, for viewing, for following us. We are still trying to reach 1,000 subscriptions onto the YouTubiness for this year. With that, we could give you so much more, and we want to give you more. So subscribe, ding the bell, leave your comments, let us know what you think, let us know what you want to hear, what you want us to talk about, all the things, all the time. Between reading, writing, and everything in between, right here on Keystroke Mediums, The Writer's Journey. Good night.